Happy whatever day it is today, everyone. I don't even remember what day it is. I just call it a post-stroke moment. Anyway, I thought of since it doesn't seem like people are talking too much about this, or at least it doesn't seem like it to me, in my limited exposure to the public. I thought I would do my best to help bring people along if they're interested. Hopefully, they'll find it extremely interesting, like I do. Um, the topic is the Great Reset, and what I'd like to do is to propose to do a series of short videos, since everybody says they like the short videos, and I'm going to try to keep them short. There is a, for the sake of doing that, I think there's 19 or 20 parts that I'd like to cover, at least one every day, so that I don't overwhelm you. The contents that we're going to be discussing in the next 19 parts or so is number one, what's at stake. We'll go into that briefly today. But we'll talk about the Great Reset. We'll talk about controversial topics that people think that we're really crazy about. We're kooks and tin-hatted conspiracy theorists. But by the end of the series, I'm hoping that you'll be able to share these videos and that people will get a sense of the fact that the joke's really on them for that don't believe. So we'll be going into a series on depopulation, the war on the farmers and the war on food, a series called Let Them Eat Bugs, because people don't believe that that's happening, and COVID vaccines and depopulation. Then we'll go into a series on the control grid. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy about it. A permanent state of emergency, what's next after COVID. We'll go into ESG social credit scores, the ultimate instrument of social control, destroying the money, the assault on local police. I think that's always one of my favorite ones. Changing the American electorate by design, and what if there was another global war? We'll go into shredding the Bill of Rights, which we all see, demonizing and criminalizing conservatives, which we all know what's happening. And then we're going to finish our series with a few more topics, namely Agenda 2030, the blueprint for world government. We will be covering grooming children for transhumanism. I mean, I can't even believe we're having this conversation right now, or at least I'm talking about this right now. Transhumanism, seriously? I mean, this is like going into the Terminator back in the 80s. The next to the last article is going to be the diabolic origins of conspiracy. Now, you guys are going to have some fun with that one because that's one of my most favorite topics. And then we're going to end up finishing with a topic called America at a Crossroads. Now, since I told you that I was going to cover briefly about what is at stake, it will be brief. But basically, it's really to kind of help people along and dispel the myth of conspiracy and conspiracy theory, and help people understand that there is, in fact, a difference. People still use the term conspiracy theory all the time without realizing what that actually means. And conspiracy theory was actually a declassified document that was written by the CIA, and the phrase created by the CIA to detract people from paying attention to the JFK assassination, and you can openly download a copy of that from the website. So what is really at stake? The Great Reset's supposed to benefit mankind, right? After COVID, life can't go back to normal, or you hear this, well, it's a new normal. Well, what it is it was an intentional creation, as we know, through Event 201, to be able to create this pandemic crisis. And they have others planned as well, whether it's white lung, whether it's they call it something else. They've got some sort of lockdown coming apparently in 2023 if we don't create enough of an awareness about this. But it's offered by Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, and the United Nations, and behind the scenes, the Council on Foreign Relations, as the solution to the world. Now, that should scare anybody. The solution to the world. Why does one entity have control of the narrative through propaganda, have control over all of the politics and the economics of the entire globe, And why is it that people are not outraged by this and making it almost their number one topic? I mean, right now, when you look at all the things that we have going on, why all of a sudden, when we have one issue that is literally affected by every small issue, are we not focusing on the big issue? And maybe I'm missing something, or maybe it's just my frame of reference. But to me, it's all about the Great Reset. I mean, everything is attached to it. So we're going to go through and we're going to be talking about this sort of dystopian transhumanist future, what actually happens, what role our kids are going to play. Like I said, dispel this idea of conspiracy theory and help people understand that, sometimes all it's necessary is to be able to receive and review information that you get. Obviously, being accurate certainly helps. Even though anything that I do would be marked inaccurate and false information, right? But for example, there's a World Economic Forum video entitled 8 Predictions for the World in 2030 that states that you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Now, this is totally open for anybody to view, so you can type in that title and you can watch other Klaus Schwab videos where they are openly dancing around. The emperor's literally running around naked, and he's flashing you at this point, letting you know what their plans are. And I've gone ahead and I've read the COVID book, I've read the Great Reset book, I've read the Fourth Industrial Revolution and those things, and they are clearly overlords that desire to be able to command control of the entire world. Every government, every economic system, every political system, in an effort to be able to move toward what they say that we're tin-hatted conspiracy theorists when we talk about the New World Order. It isn't as if our last 6 presidents in a row haven't overtly talked about it and talked about it and talked about it for us not to be able to question what the heck they're talking about when they mention it. They want to be able to keep us enslaved, right? And they want to be able to fully implement the Great Reset. It's a lot like Julian Huxley, who claimed in 1957 in his book, New Bottles for New Wine. I believe in transhumanism. Once there are enough people who can truly say that, the human species will be on the threshold of a new kind of existence. Transhumanists foresee man becoming God. Schwab says he wants to merge digital, biological, and physical identities of every person on the earth. That's a quote directly from him. I might have paraphrased it a bit, but not much. But the other thing to remember is Huxley became the first Director General in the United Nations in the educational, scientific, and cultural organization, UNESCO, which currently is where our information for our children, where the propaganda actually comes from, because that's the education arm for the United Nations. So what's the end game? Well, I think I've clearly talked about that, and I think George Orwell did too in 1984, along with Aldous Huxley in Brave New World, where humans are engineered to serve the state. We already see that, don't we? We see our children are supposed to serve the state because they're taking them away from the parents. They're trying to be able to force control of the parents to be able to do the bidding of the state. I mean, everything should be in clear view for you to be able to see exactly what's happening and what the end game is. If you don't believe that total enslavement should be the number one issue that we're dealing with, then I would encourage you to have an open dialogue with me to help me understand why people don't believe that. Because it's very hard on me to try to understand how to appeal to people where they are with their single issues and help them without anybody seemingly paying attention to the bigger picture. Now, people are getting their information from a variety of different places, right? I mean, very few people that I know are actually receiving information from, let's say, the John Birch Society, which has had a 63-year history of complete accuracy in everything that they've ever stated. But they think that a video from some guy that just, that they don't know, he just sounds really cool, is now their idol, and we have this and that and the other. And all the while, all of these new people, at least other people are waking up and telling the truth, right? But how much do we realize is the truth of what they're actually saying? And what could they be saying that isn't actually truthful? For example, we got Ron DeSantis, right? Everybody's in favor of Ron DeSantis. He's going to be our next king. And now he supports an Article 5 convention for term limits. We shouldn't be judging a man on his kingship. We should be judging a man on his issues. And some of these things are important as we go through this series. So to try to keep this video short, this series is going to be on the Great Reset. Hopefully you guys will learn a ton about this topic by the time that we're done after 19 or 20 segments. And I hope that I've done my best to be able to try to give you the kind of information that you need. So have a good day today. Stay tuned, and I hope you'll join me. Thanks.